What a dazzling day for a show. Welcome to Beyond Binary Channel. Hello, folks. My name is Peter Estrada, and today accompanying me are my friends.
Mabuhay! I'm Kate.
Hello, Kate.
Get ready to be razzled and dazzled. My name is Andre Uy.
Hello, Andre.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is Lee.
Hello, Lee.
I'll be with you 24/7, 365. I am Isa.
Hello, Isa. Okay, Kate, Lee, Andre, and Isa. These are gonna be my co-stars for today's Beyond Binaries episode. Cis Prejudice and LGBTQ people's feelings. The views and perspective of today. Now, as we start the topic, may I first ask our first respondent, Andre, may I ask for your opinion on the topic at hand? Cis prejudice, rather, really controversial already. Prejudice against LGBTQ plus people. What do you say?
So, Pete, this is a real hot topic that we have here, right? But I believe we can
Yeah.
more focus on how prejudice comes into play for LGBTQ plus people in general. And I believe that as part of our Christian morality topic, there are a lot of topics that we can really involve in this one. I believe one of our topics would be authentic human freedom as for these LGBTQ people and how these LGBTQ people are often oppressed for simply being themselves and showing who they are. Isn't that right, Pete?
That's right. Very well correlated, Andre. Authentic human freedom and cisgender prejudice against people who use their authentic human freedom. Now, may I ask Jill, what do you think of Andre's answer? Go.
Personally, I would totally agree to what Andre said. And to add up, I believe that being prejudiced towards other people is not good, especially if it's a negative thing. So, being able to express is good. Being able to have an opinion is good as long as it affects others in a good way.
You're absolutely right, Authentic human freedom has that fact in it. You can't really have freedom if you're constricted by, well, using too much of it, you know? You're gonna be constricted like that. Thank you very much for that answer, Jill. I agree. Your opinion should not be able to, hurt others to that extent. Plus, you're just trying to express yourself here? Okay, can we move on? Leslie, what do you think of the prejudice? This time, let's focus on the cisgender people. What do you think of them, huh?
So, if I'm going to think about the prejudice from the cisgender, well, not to generalize, but a few of them would really have their strong beliefs against the LGBTQ community. Let's just say like the 150 jokes, the 15 jokes, and then like the how every lesbian people drive Neo, like those scooters, motorcycles, and stuff. They really have their own beliefs, uh, and then use it against us, which it's not really a good thing. But I mean, we should really be nice and understanding. It's not really a good thing for them to just stereotype us in any kind of level. For that's my take on that.
I see. So your take is like their stereotypical way of addressing LGBTQ plus members. It's rather hurtful, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, excuse me, not everyone is like that. It's really hurtful when people do that. But that was a wonderful answer, Lee. Now, moving on to you, Isa. I'd like to ask you this question. Why do you think
Yeah.
that cisgender people are so prejudiced against LGBTQ plus people? As Lee said, they're so stereotypical, right? Not every one of them, but a few of them, a lot of them maybe, can be like that. Why do you think they do that?
Well, I think it's because of their experience with the LGBTQ community people. Well, some can have a bad interaction with them, so that's maybe why they stereotype other LGBTQ community people. And yeah, I think that's why experience is the thing that could be the thing. Anyway, yeah. You get the
I,
point.
s- I get the point, really. I really like how you worded it. That's not offensive at all. Like, it's totally okay. I tell you, because some people can have bad experiences with LGBTQ plus people, and they tend to, well, generalize that experience in a stereotypical sense. They make this new rumors, like, as Lee said, lesbians ride motorcycles or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like, what kind of bad experience do they have to, like, have that stereotype, right? That's
yeah,
crazy. Well, with that in mind, actually, we're gonna move on to part two now. The perspective on cisgender people, on members of the LGBTQ. Now, Isa, you
yeah.
just
Sure.
said
Go on.
because cisgender people have bad experiences, or rather unpleasant experiences with
Yeah,
some of them, that they, create these stereotypes. That's right. I'd like to
yeah,
ask you, Andre, what do you think of this actually?
On that topic, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's gonna be a very controversial topic, most especially to our cisgender viewers. On that topic, yeah, I believe it's not really on their experience, but more on how they were taught to experience this. Well, it doesn't make sense at first, doesn't it? But it's not their personal experience um that's really making them avoid the LGBTQ plus people, or even shame or discriminate against the LGBTQ plus people. It's what they were taught to feel about the LGBTQ plus people. Because even I know I had a lot of friends growing up who would tell me to stay away from those people. They're not of our kind, until I eventually went to be one of their kind. Um, but yeah, I didn't really have any negative experiences. All of my negative experiences and all of the views I had back then were views taught to me by my friends, or by even by elders who had those, for lack of a better term, I'm gonna go with old school beliefs. Beliefs that they themselves have been taught when in an age of when being LGBTQ plus was still considered as a sham, or even in some cases a mental illness. But that's what I really want to like express right now, on how cisgender people usually, right, this is a saying I was thinking of. Cisgender people view only the book cover of the LGBTQ plus people. They don't look deeper into the pages, and they don't see us people for who we truly are. And who that truly is simply just people. Just like you, me, everyone in this podcast, and everyone tuning in, and I guess everyone around the world. We're all just people who are trying to express our feelings. Agree with me, Pete?
That was a great answer, Andre. That analogy with the book, they don't get the core meaning, the coherence, and the content.
Right, Pete. I believe
Yep,
that's from our Christian morality, right, Isa? Right, Leslie?
yep.
Right,
yeah,
Kate?
yeah,
I,
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
y'all heard
I did.
Andre, as he just said right there. So you think that it's not necessarily that they have a bad experience. It's not like that. It can
Well,
also
yeah,
be because they were
yeah,
taught or
exactly.
influenced, right? They were taught or influenced that, right? I really agree with you because based on my own personal experience, I've experienced that. A lot of people are like, yo, wag ka maglapit sa kanya dahil ganito, ganito yan siya. There's many people like that around the world, and it's like, I used to believe it, but after meeting lots of them, after actually, the triple C's, after actually understanding the core meaning, content, and coherence, I was like, damn, they're just normal people too, and people just expressing themselves like that. It's really, really nice.
Pete, speaking
Talking
of
about
expressing,
expressing,
we had the same idea in mind. But I believe there's another topic that we can discuss about expressing, right, Pete?
yes, there is, and you know the perfect candidate. Would you like to introduce them, Andre?
Oh, I really would. For our next topic, I believe it's best spoken by one of our best friends here in the Beyond Binary podcast channel. So I believe that she's a really kind hearted and bright and lively person. That's Lee, do you have any talks about this, Lee?
So we're going for part three, like freedom of expression. So to give like a little context about that, like freedom of expression and the context of LGBTQ is just a right is a right for LGBTQ to protect themselves from harm. It's like children having the rights to protect themselves from harm, or women having the right to do whatever they want in life. It's like that, but in the context of LGBTQ, freedom of expression. Now, freedom of expression is where we get to express freely. We get to express our sexual identity in the most comfortable way in the public space. But and the thing is, the reason why it's still a concept is because there is still discrimination and danger that's still happening outside of that. um let's just say this discrimination, like there's so many insults that, yeah, the yeah, discrimination in general. It's the reason why there's still freedom of expression is because there's still discrimination. In my case, I do get discriminated a lot for my sexual identity, even if I'm not there yet. But it's still a little bit of an abstract thing. And yeah, freedom of expression is where you get to express yourself freely. That's my take on that.
So, Lee,
So,
for you, Lee, how, speaking on the topic of freedom of expression, if it's not too personal, can I ask, for you personally, how do you exercise your freedom of expression? How do you like express yourself as a person? Do you limit yourself to just expressing yourself as, I believe you were androgynous, correct? Do you limit your personality to just being that one androgynous girl?
well, for me, being androgynous doesn't really have to limit for me. Like it doesn't really limit me to becoming what I want to become in the future, because that's just my personal identity. That doesn't really show my future in life. That doesn't really show my skills, like my my statistics and everything. It doesn't really. I wouldn't say it doesn't define me, but it doesn't constrain me from what I can do. It's just like my label, and it's really a heartwarming thing to have a label or to like express yourself in the world. But I'm not there yet, so that's my take on that.
That was a really good answer. I'd like to ask you all actually. Andre, you seem to be interested in this topic. I want to learn your take on freedom of expression.
For me, Pete, freedom of expression is a responsibility. That's what I'm going to say. Now, when we express ourselves, we also need to learn that there are also consequences for expressing ourselves. There will always be reactions, but these reactions can always be both good and bad. In a coin, there are always two sides, aren't there? So, guys, what's your take on this? Isa, Kate?
Well, personally, freedom of expression is something within us. It is our right as individuals. And I believe that being able to say what you want to say is good. But filtering it and um, always saying good things towards others. Because freedom of expression, just like you said, Ande, is a responsibility. And we are responsible as individuals of our actions and our words.
You know what? I highly agree on that, Andre, right? It's a responsibility. Now,
So can
Andre,
I add like one thing?
go.
Sure, sure, sure.
Go ahead.
Can I add like one thing? So, yeah, if we're going to go to that concept, freedom of expression, like freedom of, we also have freedom of choice. We can't really be like we're going with that the consequences and stuff, right? So we really have to the people of LGBTQ community really have to face that kind of consequence, the good or the bad, and that's really the hardest part for the community, at least because we never know if we get to be accepted by the public or we don't get to be accepted by the public. What I'm getting here is we have our freedom of choice, and we get to choose whether or not to confess or to not confess. And we also have our choice to what or how we can express ourselves, right? Do we agree on that?
Yeah, I do agree
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
Yeah, I believe
Absolutely.
we can
Now,
agree on.
I want to hear from one of our co-stars, Isa. Now, this is controversial, not just in our country, but maybe a little more focused in our country. But The word budding, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
expression, that word that has such negative, yet some people find it positive for their own take, as an insult, you know. What do you think of that actually?
Why is a word budding so offensive?
On that very hot topic question, the word budding, technically, yeah, it can be simply endearing. It can have no deeper meaning, but when you really look into it, usually budding is used as an insult to somebody. Somebody who is feeble, who is weak. More usually, it's when men are displaying weakness. Now, it's that word weakness that's really condescending to the budding word, because when you call someone a budding, you tend to call them weak. That's the highlight. So the whole LGBTQ plus IA plus who consider themselves as the budding of the LGBTQ, or in English the gay people of the LGBTQ, aren't you calling all of them weak? And I don't believe that person is weak. But whenever we say budding as an insult, we're kind of inadvertently calling that person weak, aren't we? So I believe that's the whole debacle about how budding is budding is taken as a very light insult, when in reality it should really not be. It should be taken as an insult, not just as an endearing term, or not just a light insult. I believe that budding should really be taken seriously.
Yeah, that was a really wonderful take on it. I do believe that budding, or people that are budding, aren't weak, because people are people. They have their own dignity, their own respect for themselves, you know? Speaking about dignity and respect, it's about to time to head to our next topic. Now, we've discussed prejudice and authentic human freedom, the perspective on cisgender people and members of the LGBTQ, freedom of expression, and budding as an insult. Lee, you had a very powerful answer back there regarding the freedom of expression. In regards to respect and dignity, what do you think about that?
My take on that is that we really do get discriminated a lot, and it's really a bummer. It's really unfortunate for us. Andre said earlier, like fitting in and stuff. I really relate to that because we really do get to hide ourselves from the dark. And if we're gonna talk about respect and dignity, it's really a heartwarming thing for us, the LGBTQ community, because we really feel seen if we get respected and stuff. And using derogatory terms, it's insane. It's not really a good thing either. So instead of just using budding as an insult, yeah, why not just use pronouns? Example, use pronouns of for people. Because for me, that's just like that's how I see it. Respect for me, and it's really like heartwarming and stuff. Love and peace. Yeah,
Lee,
that's my take
Lee,
on that.
before we proceed, can I interject? Like, what I got from that is, instead of using budding as an insult, we should use pronouns as an insult.
No, 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 no. Let me just clarify. Let me just clarify. Let's just not use budding at all to insult people, or let's just not insult people in general.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
just
the
do that.
message I was getting to.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just
We're getting
spread
kind of
peace and
nervous
love.
there.
Spread love, love, love. Am I right? So
Yeah.
I believe that that's a really wholesome story by Lee. And Pete, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it was really wholesome too, you know, and showing respect, not just to others, but to also yourself, you know, and others showing respect to you too is really, really important. I can't stress it enough, Andre, Kate,
Right,
Leslie,
right,
and
right.
Isa.
Yeah,
I'd like
right.
to ask you now, Andre, like respect and dignity. What's your, you know, what do you have to say about it?
Well, with respect and dignity, what I can really only say about it is that it's kind of a learned trait. Learning to respect others, that takes a great deal of like willpower and discipline. That's the word. But once we learn how to respect other people's dignity, we learn that we're not just respecting other people just because it's what other people want us to do. We learn that we're respecting other people because they have their own dignity too. As I said earlier, they are people who were made by God Himself. They have the dignity of being made in the image of Christ. Am I right, friends? Right. Because
Yep,
when we learn to respect that, we learn to respect them as a human being. Now, yes, there are boundaries to disrespect, but I believe that is what our final topic for this podcast is gonna tackle, right? Our
you
ethical
are right.
approaches and learning to communicate with respect. So, Pete, why not take us into the last segment of this whole podcast?
All right, now that we're done with the five main topics to conclude it all, what should we actually do about it? The ethical approaches and learning to communicate with respect. Because it's really important. Throughout the entire conversation, you can hear discriminatory that, derogatory that, bad this, bad that, I can't say this, I can't say that. There's a lot of negative energy around here. And that all stems from just talking about people. People that can take the good approaches to learn to communicate with respect, you know? Like how Leslie said that you could just use pronouns, right, Leslie? How hard is it to say they, them, she, her, or ze, zer, whatever you want, you know? Neo pronouns. It's really a good thing to practice our ethical approaches. And I can see Andre just wanting to say something right there, opening his mouth. Say what you want, Andre.
So, Pete, I believe that to make it easier on our viewers, let's give them a little checklist of how to communicate with respect. So, first up, we have treat them as human beings. Learn to respect the way people express themselves. Be an ally, be supportive. Speak up when there's something wrong. And finally, recognize others' worth. Now, I'm gonna hand this over and finish this segment by handing over the mic to Peter Estrada to finally close our podcast for today.
Thank you very much, Andre. Looks like, yes, we are now closing the Beyond Binary podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks, and thank you very much for being with us tonight, today, tomorrow. I hope we see you more and beyond binary, of course. Okay, as we go now, we will all like to say, very firstly, Andre,
Guys, thank you for tuning in to the podcast that goes beyond the straight line and goes to see beyond the differences of others. We are the Beyond Binary channel, and I'm Andre, always going beyond.
okay, go ahead, Kate,
And I am Kate, always going beyond.
Lee. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, and I'm Lee. Always go beyond.
And then
And I'm Isa, always going beyond.
and of course, I'm your wonderfully handsome and beautiful host, Peter Estrada, always going